July 10, 1940, 4:37 a.m., IF Ventnor Radar Station, Isle of Wight. The sea below is black and restless, wind tearing at the cliffs as the first grey light bleeds into the sky. Inside the concrete bunker, the air smells of hot valves, damp uniforms, and stale tea. A cathode ray tube flickers to life, a pale green glow cutting through the darkness. Flight Officer Joan Curran leans closer to the screen, headphones pressed tight against her ears. The room hums, electric, tense. You can feel it in your chest, the low vibration of generators and the quiet fear no one says out loud. On the screen, faint blips begin to appear. One. Then another. Then dozens, stretching in a loose formation across the channel. Contact, she says, calm but sharp. Multiple plots. Bearing 160. Behind her, Squadron Leader Arthur Dowding, commander of Fighter Command, stands with his hands clasped behind his back. Months earlier, men like him had dismissed this machine, this glowing screen and its spindly towers, as an expensive experiment. Radar, they said, couldn't stop bombers. Fighters win wars, not wires and echoes. But now the blips are moving. Steady. Purposeful. German Heinkel He-111s, escorted by Messerschmitt Bf-109s, climbing over the channel under the cover of dawn. You can almost imagine the sound of their engines, even though they are still miles away, too far for human eyes, too far for listening posts. A telephone rings. Another. Plotters slide wooden markers across a massive map table, hands moving fast, practiced. Dowding steps forward. Scramble readiness, he orders quietly. Not yet. Not too soon. Timing is everything. Outside, IF pilots sleep in their huts, boots lined neatly by their beds, engines cold. If they launch too early, they'll circle until fuel runs low. Too late, and London burns. The decision, whether Britain lives or dies today, is being made here, in this dim room, by men and women staring at ghostly lines on a screen most commanders once laughed at. The blips grow brighter. Closer. The island has been seen, but now, for the first time, it sees back. 6 months earlier, January 3, 1940, Air Ministry Conference Room, London. Cigarette smoke hangs thick beneath the chandelier as rain taps against tall windows overlooking Whitehall. The room smells of polished wood, ink, and impatience. Around the long table sit senior IAF commanders, uniforms crisp, expressions skeptical. On the far end, Sir Hugh Dowding stands beside a series of technical diagrams pinned to a board. Steel towers. Radio waves. Detection ranges drawn in careful arcs. To some in the room, it looks more like science fiction than defense. Radar cannot win battles, one Air Vice Marshal says flatly, fingers drumming on the table. It doesn't shoot down bombers. A few men nod. Another chuckles. Give me more Spitfires instead of these damned masts. Dowding doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Radar doesn't need to shoot, he replies. It only needs to tell us when. The room stirs. The idea is uncomfortable, almost insulting. British air doctrine has always rested on pilot skill, bravery, and visual contact. The thought that unseen radio echoes could matter more than dogfighting instincts feels like heresy. Yet Dowding presses on. He describes a system, not just machines, but people. Radar stations feeding data to filter rooms. Plotters translating blips into formations. Controllers vectoring fighters with precision, conserving fuel, choosing when to fight instead of reacting blindly. Some listen. Many don't. Budgets are tight. War feels distant. Germany's Luftwaffe is powerful, yes, but Britain has always relied on courage and improvisation. The meeting ends with polite approval and quiet doubt. Radar survives, but barely. Underfunded. Underestimated. Mocked in mess halls as Dowding's folly. Back in the present, July 10, 1940, the laughter feels far away. At IF Ventnor, operators track the incoming raid as it splits into groups. Controllers mark their speed, altitude, intent. This is no theory now. No experiment. Dowding lifts the phone. Scramble Tangmere. Vector to Angels 15. Miles inland, pilots burst from their bunks. Engines roar to life just as the German formations cross the coast. Not early. Not late. Perfectly timed. For the first time in history, an entire nation is not reacting to an attack, it is intercepting it before the enemy knows they've been seen. July 10, 1940, 5:12 a.m., IF Fighter Command Filter Room, Bentley Priory. The Great Hall is alive with motion. Women in IAF blue move briskly around the massive map table, sliding colored markers across a grid of southern England. Each block, each arrow, represents aircraft in motion, some friendly, some lethal. The sound of ringing telephones never stops. You stand here and realize something unsettling: no one is looking at the sky. The battle is already unfolding indoors. At the center of it all, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding watches silently. Radar reports arrive from chain home stations strung along the coast: Dover, Rye, Pevensey, Ventnor, each tall mast feeding raw echoes into the system. Filter officers strip away duplicate plots, refine bearings, and turn chaos into clarity. Raid strength now estimated at 80+, a controller calls out. Altitude Angels 18. Course northwest. Dowding nods once. He doesn't need enthusiasm. He needs accuracy. Across the channel, German crews feel confident. They expect surprise. Luftwaffe doctrine assumes British fighters will rise only after bombs begin to fall. In their cockpits, navigators check watches, engines steady, the English coast emerging from the mist ahead. They don't know they are already being tracked, categorized, and counted. Back in Kent, number 11 group fighters climb on command. Squadrons are not thrown blindly into the air. They are fed into the fight only when needed. Pilots arrive with altitude advantage, fuel intact, and exact intercept vectors. You can feel the difference now. This isn't chaos. It's choreography. A Spitfire pilot tightens his grip as his controller's voice cuts through the radio: turn starboard 10 degrees. Bandits ahead. 30 seconds. The sun flashes off metal wings as IAF fighters drop onto the German formation like a closing net. The Luftwaffe is shocked, not by British courage, but by British timing. Again and again, raids are met precisely where they least expect resistance. German intelligence officers will later note the pattern but fail to understand its cause. They assume luck. Or coincidence. But inside the filter room, Dowding knows better. Radar has done what guns never could on their own: it has removed uncertainty. Britain is no longer blind. August 15, 1940, 11:02 a.m., IAF Bawdsey Radar Station, Suffolk. The sky is painfully clear, sunlight glinting off the North Sea like broken glass. Inside the radar hut, the air is stifling, heavy with heat from overworked equipment. A young radar operator wipes sweat from his brow as the screen suddenly blooms with returns. Dense, layered, unmistakable. "This is big," he mutters. Within seconds, telephones scream to life. The plot races inland, splitting, reforming, growing. German bombers from Norway and northern France are converging simultaneously. It's the kind of attack meant to overwhelm: too many directions, too many aircraft, too little time. At Bentley Priory, Dowding leans over the map. His staff waits. If fighters are scrambled too early, they'll be out of position. Too late, and the factories and airfields burn. This is what radar was built for: not detection alone, but decision. "Hold," Dowding says quietly. The room tightens. Seconds pass. Radar updates arrive every minute, refining altitude and heading. The net tightens. "Now," he says. Across England, klaxons wail. Hurricanes and Spitfires roar skyward just as German formations cross the coastline. Pilots are vectored directly into position: no wasted climbs, no blind searches. They arrive above the bombers, sun at their backs. Over the North Sea, German crews are stunned. Fighters shouldn't be here yet. Not in this strength. Not this organized. Bombers jettison payloads early. Escorts break formation. Attacks unravel mid-air. By early afternoon, the truth is unavoidable. German losses mount. British squadrons, though exhausted, remain operational. Airfields are damaged, but not destroyed. The invasion timetable slips again. Inside fighter command, no one celebrates. Dowding simply marks the board and prepares for the next raid. Radar hasn't made Britain invincible, but it has given her something priceless: minutes. And in this war, minutes decide nations. September 7, 1940, 16:43 hours, IAF Big Gin Hill Operations Room. Dust drifts from the ceiling as distant explosions thud across the countryside. The smell of smoke creeps in through cracked windows. London is burning, but fighter command is still standing. On the plotting table, markers slide east instead of south. The Luftwaffe has changed targets. Airfields are no longer the priority. The city is. The blitz has begun. Dowding watches the board in silence. Others feel relief: pressure on IAF bases is easing, but he feels something colder. Germany has made a mistake. A fatal one. Radar stations along the coast are still operating. Though some masts bear bomb scars, the chain home network lives on. Every raid toward London is seen forming over France. Every bomber stream is tracked long before it reaches the Thames. Controllers exploit the shift immediately. Fighters are no longer tied to defending scattered airfields. They are concentrated, conserved, and launched with ruthless efficiency. Squadrons meet bombers over open ground, break formations early, and disengage before fuel runs dry. You can feel the pattern now. The Luftwaffe is reacting. Britain is deciding. German commanders believe terror will force surrender. They don't see the quiet rooms filled with women sliding markers across maps, or the radar operators watching green blips crawl toward the coast. They don't realize that bombing cities, not radar, has given Britain breathing space. By nightfall, fires rage across London, but fighter command remains intact. Aircraft are repaired. Pilots rest. Radar screens glow on through the dark. The island holds. Not because Britain outfought Germany in the air, but because it outthought it. September 15, 1940, 11:30 a.m., IF Uxbridge Operations Room. The underground bunker vibrates with noise, telephones ringing, voices calling bearings, boots scraping against concrete. The largest raid yet is forming. Radar stations report it almost simultaneously, blips stacking into thick streams over the channel. Raid strength, 100 plus, a controller calls. Then another update. Second wave forming behind it. This is the day Germany intends to finish it. Dowding stands beside Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, commander of No. 11 Group. The map table is crowded with markers, blue and red pressing toward collision. There is no bravado here. Only math. Fuel. Altitude. Time. Scramble everything, Park orders. Fighters lift in waves, precisely sequenced. Radar keeps feeding updates, adjusting vectors mid-flight. Squadrons turn by degrees, not guesswork. You can almost see the invisible threads pulling aircraft into position. Above Kent and London, the sky erupts. Contrails cross, aircraft burn, parachutes blossom. German formations fracture under relentless interception. Bombers turn back. Escorts scatter. By mid-afternoon, the truth is undeniable. The Luftwaffe cannot break this system. Britain's fighters are still rising. Radar masts still stand. Command still functions. In Berlin, the invasion is quietly postponed. Then abandoned. Back at Uxbridge, no one cheers. Dowding removes his cap and rubs his eyes. The island is saved, not by a miracle, but by a machine once laughed out of rooms like this. Radar never fired a shot. Yet it decided the Battle of Britain.